Democratic Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California is with me now. Congresswoman, thank you for spending a few moments with me. You have been, I know you were there with some demonstrators in front of the Supreme Court yesterday. You've talked this summer about your own abortion at a time before it was legal here in the U.S. If the court guts the protection from Roe v. Wade and dozens of states outlaw it in this country, what does that look like?
Thanks a lot for having me with you this afternoon. And what it looks like is that people will be denied access to reproductive freedom, which means the end of Roe versus Wade. And so what we have to do here in Congress is to make sure that the Senate passes Congresswoman Judy Chu's bill, the Women's Health Protection Act, so that we can codify into law freedom and access to the full range of reproductive health care, which includes abortions.
Well, in the current makeup of the Senate, that seems very unlikely that you'll get 10 Republican votes for that or all 50 Democratic votes for it, actually. Let's focus on the court, though. Chief Justice Roberts seemed to be trying to find a way to avoid the full gut of Roe, mostly because of his deference to precedent of Roe and Casey in the 90s. Considering the makeup of the court and what you heard yesterday, is that more likely? Is that the best plausible outcome, considering what you heard from the justices?
Well, the best plausible outcome would be that they rule on behalf of people in this country in terms of not taking away reproductive rights. And, you know, it's my understanding, and I'm going to verify this, that if they rule on behalf of the Mississippi case, that this would be the first time that rights would be taken away. And so I believe that we have to make sure that we move very aggressively forward and organize politically to hold members of the Senate accountable to pass the Women's Health Protection Act, because it's clear to me that the court is being politicized. And in fact, Roe versus Wade has been the framework and the law of the land for 50 years. And so now the court is possibly going to take away those rights that have been here for 50 years, and that is unacceptable.
All right, a few months potentially till we'll get a decision from the court. Let me turn to something that's happening this hour. I just got a copy of a draft of a letter that's circulating from some of your House progressive colleagues that calls for consequences for Congresswoman Boebert after her comments about Ilhan Omar, Representative Omar. Have you signed on to this, and what would you like to see after those Islamophobic comments?
Well, first of all, I'm speaking personally, and I have to say that these comments were despicable, and shows that Speaker Pelosi has really asked her members in terms of input, in terms of our response. And so, yes, I'm going to sign whatever letter comes forth, because I do believe that she should be stripped of her committees. You know, hate speech leads to hate violence. And Leader McCarthy, he's just lost control over his unhinged caucus. And so we're working now to try to make sure that we move forward with the most appropriate measures. And I do believe personally, again, I'm not speaking for any caucus or anyone else, I'm speaking on behalf of myself, that she should be held accountable. Hate speech leads to hate violence. This is not only about attacking a religion, the Muslim religion. What it does is set people up to be attacked as it relates to their physical security. We know that what she said implied, and really, but it was very clear that she was calling her a terrorist and a member of the jihadist terrorist groups. And Come on, you can't allow people to do this to anyone, because it puts everyone at risk. So we should need to take the most stringent action we can.
Should that mean that she's pulled from her committees?
I personally think so, yes.
Okay. The reporting is that behind closed doors, Speaker Pelosi is telling the caucus to consider the potential that this could backfire, that this will be used, as it has been for other members, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Paul Gosar, for fundraising, to give them publicity, to actually help their cause. Your consideration of that?
Well, it is being used for fundraising, and we know exactly why they're doing this. That's one issue. But you cannot allow members of Congress to be put at risk, anyone in our country to be put at risk through hate speech, because hate speech leads to hate violence. As I said, the Speaker is talking to members of Congress to determine the most appropriate response. I personally believe that she should be held accountable. And what that means for me personally, again, is that we should take the most stringent measures. Come on, if a Democrat said something like that or conducted themselves in that way, I too would be doing the same thing and taking the same position.
Yeah, you make it clear that you're speaking in your personal capacity, this letter being floated by Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, who is the chair of the Progressive